How is everybody doing? This is, of course, your boy Bernie here on the charge, getting the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. We're just going to wait a little bit before we get started here on the charge. Again, I do apologize that I have not kind of made a formal announcement, and I think that's probably what I should be doing from here on out, is making a formal announcement, letting you all know when we're live, and kind of be a little bit more accountable that in that way. So, look forward to some YouTube shorts. Be looking forward to, let me also know in the comment section down below how you guys would like me to alert you because, I've tried the Twitter thing. I've tried the YouTube shorts and YouTube posts, but I want to know what you guys think is the best way for me to approach you guys in announcing when a live video is going to happen. So, um, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about really letting me alert you guys as to when we're live? But without matter of a doubt, we're going to talk about a couple things today. Of course, the big one and the big talking point, and this one is a little surprising, but also shouldn't be surprising at the same time. You see it right behind me, the story of Joel Embiid focusing. Let me just read the title instead of trying to like dodge and avoid myself. But as you guys can see, the title here, Joel Embiid focuses on title, whether it's in Philly or elsewhere, which confirms kind of what a lot of us have been expecting for a while now. And that's, of course, the end of the process in Philly. I think Joel Embiid was the first talking point in there. And so that is something that is going to be a very interesting situation for the 76ers to kind of navigate as they look forward to maybe potentially the next chapter of whatever the process might be. And so that's something that we're going to have to look at in just a minute, but I'm just going to wait just a couple more seconds, maybe 30, 40 more seconds, and then we'll get right started into talking about this because it is a very, I would say it's a very controversial, but also not very controversial at the same time because, we've talked about this ad nauseum before. Really on this channel, I know Pete has really said it. I know that it is one of those things that we continue to talk about at really at length because we know how good Joel Embiid could be. Sorry, just updating some folks on some stuff. But yeah, we know how good he can be, and so that's kind of the big thing that we're going to talk about here, like I said, on the charge. But let's get right started. Let's head over to the live scene, and we'll get started talking about it. And of course, as you guys can tell from the title, Joel Embiid focuses on winning a title elsewhere, whether it's in Philly or anywhere else. The article, of course, this is Joel Embiid talking. I believe he is on, I can't remember which platform he's talking about, but this is what he goes on to say. Joel Embiid has a revealing interview with Mavericks Carter to discuss his career and his goals, which he hinted could include playing for another team in order to improve his odds of winning a championship. I just want to win a championship, whatever it takes, Embiid said. I don't know whether it's going to be whether it's in Philly or elsewhere. I just wanted to have a chance to accomplish that. I want to see what it feels like to win the first one, and after that, you can think about the next one. It's not easy. It's more than one or two or three guys. Got to have a good people around you and myself. Every single day, I work hard to be at the level so I can push myself to make it happen. Every single day, that's working towards that goal. Whether the mindset has been MVP is just an added bonus. Of course, we talked about the Sixers having a complete offseason with James Harden deciding to opt in. What's up, Hilo? How you doing, man? Here to the Knicks. This is going to be a very interesting. I'm sorry that and that's the end of the article. This is going to be a very interesting offseason for the Philadelphia 76ers because this, to me, is signaling the end of the process in Philadelphia. Brad here on the channel, he's a big Joel Embiid guy, loves him, cares about him, thought he was the MVP, but later changed his mind towards like the end of the NBA Finals. But nevertheless, Joel Embiid did win that MVP that Brad was talking about. And the biggest thing that this all circles back to is those years, I feel like, where they had Brett Brown as their head coach, and all those years of tanking just to get the best players, the Markel Fultz, the Ben Simmons of the world, and those years I felt like wasted a lot of people's time in Philadelphia, really specifically Joel Embiid's time, because like we talked about numerous amount of times here on the channel, I felt personally that those years wasted away some of the prime years of Joel Embiid, wasted away the the blueprint, I would say, not the imprint, but the blueprint on how to build a championship team. To really solidify, I would say, Joel Embiid as this sort of superstar type of player in terms of molding him into the championship player that he should be. And that's the disappointing thing that um I would say about Joel Embiid's career so far is I feel like those years have been wasted away, whether it's injuries, whether it's Philadelphia just not being able to win the big one. And to me, I just think back to that Hawks series. I think back to those years where, it was a young Ben Simmons, a young Joel Embiid, and having the same coach and not really implementing a new mentality. And it really affected this team. I mean, even having Doc Rivers for as long as they did also affected this team. And I would say that that's kind of the disappointing thing right now with Joel Embiid is that I feel like the championship mold qualities or the things that really win championships, the things that these players have been taught to win championships, and the way that you have to carry yourself sometimes, I felt like the 76ers wasted those years away with Joel Embiid. And, Joel Embiid, luckily, I believe, is only like 27, 28. And so he's still in his prime, not saying he's out of his prime, but, you wasted away the younger years of Joel Embiid just to kind of have what you have now, which is a really good solid team, can make it to the quarterfinals, but that's really about it. Can't make it to the semis, or if they do get to the semis, they can never get to the NBA finals. And it is starting to become, I would say, frustrating if you're Joel Embiid. Now, from Joel Embiid's side of things, I think there's a couple things that Joel Embiid needs to do in order to become a better basketball player. Like, yes, Joel Embiid can say these things and talk about it, but really, to me, it really starts with Joel Embiid. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. I'm going to get a lot of shtick. But really, if you really think about it, every year in the playoffs, Joel Embiid somehow gets hurt. Whether it's a lower body injury, whether it's a finger injury, whether it's something that is caused by just not being, I would say, in the best shape of your life. And I know that's going to sound harsh. I know that's going to be rude, but I just feel like Joel Embiid has never gotten in the proper shape in order to win a championship. And yes, we can talk about Jokic winning the championship and things like that, and Jokic not being in shape as well. But at the same time, Jokic has a team that's completely built around him that has a lot of athletes around him. I think Joel Embiid is way more athletic than Jokic. We all know that. I think that he is a little bit. I think he could probably be a little bit stronger than Jokic. But for some reason, I just feel like he's always winded. Every time I see him in the playoffs, it seems like he's always winded, always tired. He could never get his legs under him, and I think that's the reason why it causes him to, I would say, lose these games that really they normally probably should win in the semifinals. But at the end of the day, like the big thing that we're gonna have to talk about here as a channel here on YouTube for basketball is, what is it gonna take for Joel Embiid to get back into, I would say, the best shape of his life? Because I just think that that's the issue with Joel Embiid is that he's just not in shape, and when he's not in shape, it really affects his play. And I want to see him play a lot better. I want to see him do a lot better. I think that Joel Embiid can be that guy to carry you to an NBA Finals, or could at least help you get to the NBA Finals. Um, but I think that the 76ers gave away a lot of pieces that I think could have helped out. I would say the 76ers win more games and really should have won. Like, I think they should have kept Jimmy Butler. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Jimmy Butler, whether you agree with his personality or disagree with his personality, he's a guy that will carry you to a championship. He's a guy that will help you get to the championship. And imagine if these two were still playing together. I think it would be a lot better than what we're seeing right now. And that to me is the frustrating thing with the 76ers. And I talked about this, like I said, I know that maybe some of you have just tuned in. Um, but I've said this for a while now when it comes to Joel Embiid. He has to be in shape, but also the 76ers cannot keep trading away pieces after pieces and expecting to get things done. Like they should have never traded away Jimmy Butler. Like I know the Ben Simmons thing. They should have traded away Ben Simmons a lot earlier, or they should have said, you know what, Ben Simmons, this is how we're gonna make you get better. That's going to be the biggest question mark. And I know I got a couple questions here in the chat, and I'll get to them in just a second. But to kind of end my talking points before I kind of talked about your guys' points, I think we could clearly see that the end of the process is coming. Um, it was going to be something that we talk about in an ESPN 30 for 30. Maybe they won't even be here anymore. Maybe it's more of a YouTube documentaries type of thing from some personality that can say it way better than I can. But at the end of the day, we are going to have those conversations about what could have been. It's the same thing with I would say the LA Clippers in the 2010s. What could have been? What could have been every single year? Every single year, hype from 76ers fans. Every single year, hype from all these other sorts of fans from all over the nation. The process, the Clippers, no matter what team it was, the process was an utmost, and then I would say an absolute fail. I know that maybe people disagree, and maybe people think I'm a little bit harsh on talking about it, but the process was a failed thing from the start because at the end of the day, Pete and I talk about this at nauseum. At nauseum, we've talked about this before. And Drunk, I see your comment about it being the biggest scam, and I'll tell you why it's the biggest scam. Because there was no installment of how to win basketball games. There was no installment of, hey, Joel Embiid, you are going to play this season with the worst team and the worst roster. Go play your butt off, see what you can do, and win that Rookie of the Year. Same thing with Ben Simmons. Same thing with Markelle Fultz. I know Markelle Fultz had a different story, and I know that it was a lot of different things that was going on. And I know that maybe there might have been a motorcycle accident. Like, I don't know what happened. And, I think, like I said, we're going to talk about it probably 20, 30 years down the line. But without the installment and without the right coaching staff and without the right people in the office telling these guys how to win these basketball games, the process was doomed to start. It was doomed from the start because there was no one in there to instill a will. There was no one in there to instill what should have been a better process. What should have been a lot better. But let me know in the comment section down below what do you guys think, or in the live chat. I have a couple here that I'm going to read, and then we'll get here going. Drunk said, honestly, this might be the best move for the Sixers. Embiid has peaked, rebounding around Maxey and a bunch of first. I think the real question, and this is, of course, from Hilo, said, has Embiid ever been the best shape he could be? He's got to stay on his feet more and foremost. You see Jokic rolling on the floor like Embiid. And then, of course, I read Drunk's comment, and Hilo said, drunk preach. I mean, to talk about your first point, Drunk, I mean, I love Maxey. I think Maxey's a good player. And I think he is super talented, but I just don't know if Maxey, I would say personally, is a 1 in this league. I would say that he is a good 2, a good 3, in terms of like ranking of who should be your best player. I think that he's either a 2 or a 3. And it's no disrespect to Maxey, but I just think that maybe, I think that he can. I just don't know if he has that ability to carry a franchise like a guy like Embiid, like a guy like Jokic, like a guy like LeBron. And that to me is kind of my issue, I would say, like building around him. But you can definitely find some good pieces. I'm curious to see what the trade haul would be for a guy like Joel Embiid. But, I think the process, like we talked about, is coming to an end. And I definitely can see Joel Embiid getting traded. I can definitely see him moving about, and maybe whether his contract ends and say, hey, it was fun, the ride was nice, but I got to move and find a different team. Embiid was the only good thing that came out of the process. I would say that's true. Let's see here. And so exactly, the process was about assets, and it was about the assets and players without no thought to developing those players or do anything truly of value with those assets. I said it wrong. I don't mean rebuild around Maxey at 1. Rebuild around Max until they get a 1 or 2. Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean they have to do something. I mean, to me, it's kind of one of those things where I agree with you in a sense, drunk, where they have to now look at the next year coming draft and start thinking, okay, like if Joel Embiid is really leaving us and we're really gonna have to, you know, take, several steps back from going from the number one seed to um, losing our best player, like they're gonna have to start looking in the draft at some of these players that potentially could have some star potential. Um, yeah, I definitely agree with you there, drunk. Like they can't sit around and say, okay, Joel Embiid, like what are you expecting from us? But let's look at Joel Embiid's contract really quick because I think I remember he signed it either last year, if I'm not mistaken. But let's check out his deal. I think he signed it, and and that's the thing too. Now we also forget, like Joel Embiid literally just signed his contract extension last year. And so now it's finally going into effect. And by the time he's done with his player option, and by the time he's done with his contract, he's going to be 33 years old. And so this is what I will say to these players. Like, I understand, get your money, do all that stuff. But you do have to understand, like, there is a situation, man. I feel like these players need to get a hold of reality sometimes and really hold these teams. Like, here's the thing: if you're about getting your money, I say sign the contract extension right there, right now. But here's the thing: I don't want to hear about complaining about the team structure or anything like that. Now, here's how you hold your team's feet accountable, and LeBron did this when he was in Cleveland. Hold your team accountable for signing the players that you want. That is the biggest issue I have with these players sometimes, is not the fact that they are getting their money, because hey, get your bread. I don't care whether you're a plumber, whether you're an NBA player, whether you're an athlete, an actor or artist, whatever position or whatever thing that you do in life, find a way to get that leverage if you're the best at what you do. Hey, boss, I'm the best plumber available. If you don't want to give me a raise, I'm going to start my own company and do my own thing. And I know it's a lot of talk, and I know that it's really tough, but I really think that that's what Joel Embiid should do. That's what a lot of these guys should do. Because to me, like, a Joel Embiid should be holding his team accountable the year prior, but prior to the contract extension, because if he wouldn't have, to me, like, if he didn't sign that contract extension and said, hey, I need these three things from you guys in the next 2 years, or I'm not re-signing this contract extension. Like, that's the type of thing that you do. I mean, LeBron James did that in his final year before he went to Miami. It was the same thing. Like, hey, Cleveland, I need these things before I even sign a contract extension with you. And I know that you get more money signing with the home team or the team that you got drafted to, but sometimes you just have to play hardball. You have to play the long game. I think that that's kind of where things should have happened. But we'll see what happens for Joel Embiid's sake, because that to me is what a lot of these players need to start doing, especially the ones that are saying the things that Joel Embiid are saying. Like, again, if you're saying that you don't want to win a championship, or you're not even mentioning championships in your conversations about anything, then hey, I'm never gonna hate on anybody that's just signing that contract right away. That's kind of what I would say for that. Like, don't be afraid to sign that contract extension. Don't be afraid to not sign that contract extension. Like, hold your team accountable to getting you the players that you want. Like I said, do you feel like letting Doc Rivers spin the tires for years helped or hurt Embiid? Hilo, you said drunk MIMO hurt him greatly. Doc doesn't challenge players; he manages their egos. All Morey and Doc did for Embiid was get him an MVP through aggressive marketing. I thought the same thing. Hilo, hiring Doc was the nail in the coffin. Yeah, I mean, Doc Rivers, for better or for worse, he won a championship for my Celtics. I can't hate on him too much in terms of that. But, let's talk about the Clipper years. Let's talk about the 76ers years. I would say that it was an utmost fail, in the sense that I don't believe he can get the best out of his players. There's always something that Doc Rivers does. There's always like some sort of minor adjustment or non-adjustment that he doesn't make that hurts this team tremendously. And that's the biggest issue that I say Doc Rivers has as a coach sometimes is, yeah, you won a team when you had the stacked deck, right? We'll call a spade a spade. Like, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. Rajon Rondo, Kendrick Perkins, like all those guys, like in their primes, ready to ball out. Like I think you could put any coach in that situation and they would win the championship. And really, I think it's the last team I would say that got put together. Besides, I mean, maybe besides the well, no, I don't even count the KD Warriors because they only added one player. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things, and we'll talk about maybe we even talk about that championship too. But yeah, I mean, I think personally, Doc Rivers hindered uh Lob City, and they also hindered the 76ers. I mean, the 76ers should have been a lot better. We know that this team should have been to the NBA Finals. Really, they should have been battling the Milwaukee Bucks in that NBA Finals and or NBA Eastern Conference Finals rather than the Atlanta Hawks. And I love the Hawks. Pete, you know how much I'm a Trey Young guy. Josh, who watches the channel occasionally, knows that I'm a believer in his Hawks at times. This year, not so much, but you know, I respect the Hawks, but at the same time, like the Hawks were not better than the 76ers. Like, no way, no how. But I think Doc Rivers didn't make the right adjustments. Like, I know you can blame, everyone likes to blame Ben Simmons for that moment, and rightly so. He does deserve a lot of blame, but I also think Doc Rivers does as well because he put him out there in a situation where I think Ben Simmons at times can get nervous by the moment, or he doesn't want to feel the pressure. Like, and again, like everybody is not able to handle that pressure. Hell, I don't even think a lot of us could handle that pressure. So I'll also keep it a buck as well because some of us crumble. And, I think that, I put any of us in that situation, we're probably not doing the same thing either. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. I just don't know if Doc Rivers was the right person for it. KG won the championship for your Celtics. Nah, I mean, I would say that it was a combination of the three. I mean, Ray Allen definitely had his moments. Paul Pierce definitely was hitting those clutch shots. KG definitely was kind of the focal point of the offense, and so yeah, I mean, it definitely was important to see him win that championship. But I do think that you're right in the sense that he did help us a lot in that championship. But yeah, I mean, that's going to kind of do it for this topic. I know that we're not going to go very long today. We might actually go another day during the week, and I'll let you guys know. I'll let you guys know about that live stream and let you guys know like when we're going live with it. But be on the lookout for that. If we're gonna get Pete on here, we're gonna talk about this topic because I think it's a very interesting thing, and I want to get his opinion on it, and really kind of explain this because I think it is a big conversation starter point. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of Joel Embiid potentially ending the process and moving out to a different city? Let me know in the comment section down below. All right. Let's see here. Let's make sure that there's no other new topics coming through. Let's do this. Drink a little water here. Let's quickly talk about this one. Let's talk about this because I think that this, I kind of want to salute Cam Whitmore. And I won't. Maybe I'll make this a separate topic because I do want to talk about it. All right, let's move on to this topic. Sorry for the people that are watching the live stream. I had to say that twice. But Cam Whitmore, named the 2023 Summer League MVP, headlines the All NBA Summer League team. Can we just give a shout out to Cam Whitmore for a second? I want to give this guy his props because dude has been through a ton, I would say, early adversity, just like Michael Porter Jr. had early in his career. Cam Whitmore was told by all these doctors, and I think he was told. No, that was actually Michael Porter Jr. So I don't want to misinformation there. But Cam Whitmore was told by a bunch of NBA team doctors that this guy's health was a huge concern and he is undraftable. He's the guy that should not be drafted. Look out. Don't draft him with your draft pick. And a lot of teams bought into that. I would say a lot of teams bought into that. And, any player could be frustrated. Any player could cuss out anybody. But Cam Whitmore let his play do the talking during the summer league. And I think a lot of teams are going to regret where this kid fell in the draft. Cam Whitmore is showing you why he was projected in the top 10, at least top 15, because he has a special ability to score, very athletic, someone that I am looking forward to seeing and watching on NBA League Pass, the Houston Rockets, with the pieces that they have. Jabari Smith Jr. also playing very well. Someone that, again, another guy that I've criticized before on this channel, balled out, and I have to eat my crow because he really balled out, and I think that he's a guy that is going to play very well next year. I think that he will definitely have a better season than last season, and so I'm excited to watch him play. But give respect to Cam Whitmore, man. Like, again, a guy that could have used this as, putting himself down. Like, why doesn't anybody want to draft me? But this guy put his negatives into fueling his motivations to be a better player, and clearly showed everyone what he's about. Winning the MVP, headlining the All NBA team, first team. The first team includes Keontae George, who absolutely is balling out right now. Sam Merrill from the Cavs, Orlando Robinson from the Heat, Hunter Tyson from the Nuggets, and Cam Whitmore from the Rockets, like I said. And for the second team, we have Max Christie, who you already know how I feel about Max Christie. Very good player. Javon Freeman Liberty for the Bulls, Xavier Moon for the Clippers, Amani Bates for the Cavaliers, Jabari Smith, like I talked about, for the Rockets, and Jalen Wilson for the Nets. Salute to Cam Whitmore. Could have said, screw it, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to be associated with this. I should be down. I should be upset. But he uses that to motivate himself. And, shout out to Cam Whitmore, man. Could have went in a whole different direction, but decided to kind of keep his own. And, I'm excited to see what his future holds for him. And like I said, I'm excited to watch the Houston Rockets play on League Pass in the regular season, because they're going to be a fun team to watch. I think they have a lot of good pieces. I'm curious to see how it all blends together finally during the regular season. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of the Houston Rockets and Cam Whitmore winning the MVP, and do you think he'll have a better season? Do you think that he'll have a good season this coming year? Let me know in the comment section down below. All right. Let's talk about the final topic of today, and that is, of course, Bradley Beal expected to enter Suns training camp as the starting point guard. Shams from The Athletic goes on to say that Bradley Beal is expected to start as their point guard, with Jordan Goodwin as the reserve point guard, sources say. Details on the Suns' move to shore up roster, add second rounders for future moves, and create $30 million in tax savings, from The Athletic. Obviously everyone on Twitter has their comments, and Agent Wojnarowski said that the Suns have replenished their draft capital post Durant and Beal trades. They've added 6 second-round picks to go with 4 first-rounders in their team's arsenal. Another good young player in Bol, who they just re-signed, or they just traded and got. And really, I think that this is going to be a very interesting situation, because this is, to me, is feeling like NBA My Team, NBA 2K, making a roster together. I'm curious to see how this roster goes together. Because to me, I feel like the point guard position is not only about what the NBA has kind of turned it into a little bit, which is the scoring guard, the guy that likes to score all the time and get a bunch of assists, but he also is someone that has to set up the offense, someone that has to do a lot of different things to get, I would say, these players organized and get them going. Because the problem, that I would say that could be an issue for the Suns is how Bradley Beal could potentially, break play and go score the basket. Like, sometimes you have to have that point guard that kind of slows everything down, get everything going and moving before you can get going. I mean, it's the same, we watch Steph Curry and we know that he can pull up and transition, but really, to me, it's not about the transition, it's about the half court stuff. When the other team scores, what are you doing? And Steph Curry does a really good job of bringing up the ball, passing it up ahead, and then moving out and moving around. And, I think that's going to be a very different position that Bradley Beal has been accustomed to. Like, Bradley Beal has most likely been off ball for a lot of his career because he's played with John Wall. And John Wall's the guy that brought the ball up, and then he kind of goes off. And this is going to be a new position for every player to learn. Like, we know that it's not just Bradley Beal that's going to bring up the ball. Like, it's not about who brings up the ball for this team. It's about how these players get adjusted to new roles and new customs, right? You know, most of these players are really good, and they can fit into any system, so there's no issue in a sense of that. But the issue that these players could potentially run into is, who do you set up the offense for in a game situation? Who's winning you the game? And more than likely the ball is going to Durant and Booker, more so than anyone else. But where does that leave Beal? I mean, again, we've seen this try to work in Brooklyn. We've only seen this, I believe we've only seen this work once. And even, actually, no, we've seen it work a couple times, right? We saw LeBron James and the Heat do it. But to me, I just feel like when it comes to those guys, it took them a year plus before they were able to get comfortable with each other. Like, even the finals, which they lost, like, they still weren't accustomed to each other. And I think that's going to be the same thing with this Beal, Booker, Durant deal. I just don't know if it's going to work out in the first year. Maybe it works out in the second year, but excuse me, I feel like the NBA is too five-man oriented in terms of every player gets involved rather than just the superstars. I just feel like that's going to be a tough time for the Suns to get accustomed to. Like, I'm curious to see how this team is going to play out and how it's going to work out together. I know Vogel won a championship. Vogel's done a lot of good things in this league. I'm curious to see how he's able to do it, because it's going to be a tough one, I would say, because there's a lot of players that could potentially need some playing time. You got Eric Gordon and Kogi, Kid Bates-Diop, Wanatube, Watanabe. Like, there's a lot of players that are going to be needed to help and do a lot of different things. So, yeah, I mean, let me know in the comment section down below what do you guys make of this story. Again, I don't want to go too much into detail. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit of the things here. Al Francisco says, but Bradley Beal throughout his career hasn't played point guard. Now, late in his career, the Suns are going to make him PG. Shouldn't it be Devin Booker? Al Francisco, I think the problem with Booker being the point guard is that they've tried that before, right? If you remember early in Booker's career, because I know Booker is so young, and I think he's 24, but like just 4 or 5 years ago, they were trying to play him at point guard because they were still trying to figure out what their answer was at point guard. But I just don't know if Booker really has point guard ability, because we saw in those years, like, they were losing a lot of games. And then as soon as you bring in Chris Paul, a traditional point guard, someone that does a lot of the things that you ask him to do, that's when they started winning. That's when they started unlocking DeAndre Ayton. That's where Ayton finally started playing a little bit better than what we've seen him play, and had one of his best career years with Chris Paul as the starting point guard. Now, I agree with you in the sense that I just don't know if Bradley Beal can do that either. Like, that's the conversation that needs to be talked about, and we're talking about it right now. And I appreciate you putting a comment in the comment section, because I do agree with you in that sense. Like, Bradley Beal has never done this before. Maybe a couple times. And there's a difference between bringing up the ball and being a guy that sets up the offense, knowing when to cut, when to go, because these players, probably like what your comments alluding to, Al Francisco, is that these players are trying to score. They're trying to get the ball. So they're not going to do a lot of the off the ball stuff that normal point guards do. Like guys like Rondo, guys like Chris Paul, like those guys are doing a lot of different things before they get the ball back in their hands. And so, I think it's going to be a tough ask of Bradley Beal, like you said, at 30, 31, I believe he's 29 or 30 years old. It's going to be a tough ask for him to just be like, hey, go play the point guard position. But it's kind of the same thing with Booker, though. Booker, I believe, could never play the point guard position. Not saying that he could never. That might be a little bit of an overstatement. But I think Booker is too much of a scorer, and you need his scoring ability. You need him to not have the ball in his hands as often, rather than a guy like Bradley Beal, who maybe he can just facilitate just a little bit, right? Like, yeah, I mean, Booker definitely is a shooter and not a facilitator. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this roster that aren't really facilitators. Most of these guys are just scorers. right? Like it's really a team of five scorers, right? You have Aiton, who's more of an offensive minded center. You have Bradley Beal, offensive minded, scoring mid range, and also can shoot the three. Kevin Durant, score, isn't really going to be is going to be a guy that's facilitating. And then you have Booker, who's just, again, a scorer, one of the best scorers we have in this league. So really, like, you have four scorers, and then it's, whoever else you want to put out there, like Eric Gordon, a scorer, a Kogi, a scorer, Keita Bates Diop, a scorer, Watanabe, a scorer, probably like role player type of guy. Like, there is very little room for anybody that's just trying to set up the offense, get guys in the right spots, basically be a second coach on the court. None of these guys, I feel like, are a second coach on the court, and that's not disrespect to them. It's just not in their arsenal, right? Like Bradley Beal, like you said, more so a scorer than a facilitator. Same thing with a lot of these guys. I mean, the only facilitator that they've had in the last couple of years was Chris Paul, and that's just because he was at the tailor end of his deal. And so that's where I believe the concern comes from. From me personally, is like, where is there, who's, because really it's like, who's going to sacrifice the shots, right? Because you're going to have four guys, especially, that are going to want their touches, are going to want their offensive, you know, they want to put up their numbers, right? Bradley Beal, I feel like it's going to take a step back in terms of the numbers scored. You could also potentially see, hang on one second. Um, he's a better, more scorer than a facilitator, and that's the biggest issue I think with this team. And Al Francisco, you're probably alluding to this a lot. Um, that's a lot. That's a lot of guys to get to be happy, right? I mean, it's going to be a tough thing. I know you can say like, "Hey, let's have your night. Let's have this player can have his night." I think it's a tough ask for any player that's been in that kind of superstar category where you've been the number one for most of your career, and now all of a sudden they're telling you, you know what? You seem like more like a number two, like, or we can all be happy at moments, but when you've been the star player or you've been the number one person, whether it's in a company, whether it's a sport, like, you want to be the best, and you want to have the best, and you want the best opportunities to be the best. And yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be a tough ask, man. Like, I'm, when Pete and I go live on Wednesday, I think we've confirmed Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. I'll put out a video as well. And again, I do apologize that my energy is kind of a little low. Blech, that my energy is a little low. But yeah, I mean, that's gonna be a very interesting situation. Booker, Beal, Aiton, KD. That's a lot of mouths to feed. That's a lot of ball to give, and with only one ball, it's gonna be very tough. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about Bradley Beal moving to the point guard position? Are you sold? Are you convinced? Or are you a little skeptical that this is not going to work out? Let me know in the comment section down below. Alrighty. I think let's make sure that there's no other rumors to talk about. We've already talked about that. Dylan Brooks. No. Cameron Payne officially traded. Karl-Anthony Towns likely to play in the World Cup. Wembanyama news. Not really anything I'm seeing out here. I think that's gonna do it here for the charge. I mean, unless there's like some small little thing that we can talk about. We can talk about this one. I mean, this kind of goes into the Joel Embiid news a little bit. 76ers would like James Harden to return next season if they were unable to trade him, but sources tell Kelly Neubeck of the Philly Voice there's still a rift between him and his camp and management, and there's a growing expectation that the rift could lead to an even uglier battle. The trade position of the 76ers has been described by rival executives as unreasonable. Sources tell Neubeck the 76ers want to get in return for Harden that either he keeps them in the tier of contention or make them trade with enough assets so they can flip for another higher player. The 76ers do not want to take a step back this season. They clearly they don't want to take a step back because they feel like if they do, they're probably losing Embiid. And I think we've talked about this at nauseum a little bit earlier in the show, so make sure you check out that earlier portion of it if you're watching at this point. I mean, this to me is another situation. You trade for a guy like James Harden, it works for a little bit, but then at the end of the day, James Harden is just not the same player that he once was. Um, and it's going to be a very, very, I think it's going to just be a tumultuous season for the 76ers. This just screams they're going to blow up. If you guys know what I mean. Um, the reason why it's going to blow up is because if you get rid of James Harden, Joel Embiid's probably not going to be happy. He's going to want to leave. And then now you have a domino effect where guys like Tobias Harris, who, again, I've had my criticisms of Tobias. They should have done a lot better. He's going to want to leave. All the assets and all the players, like the only player going to be left with is Tyrese Maxey and a bunch of other guys. And so I think that no matter what, they're going to potentially be screwed because they're going to have to take a step back. I think that there's just too many um, things that they have to do in order to get things right. But to me, I just feel like they're going to take a step back. I don't see the 76ers moving forward and getting like a star studded player that replaces James Harden. I think they're kind of screwed themselves with that trade. And, you know, I know they trade away Ben Simmons, and I've talked about this being a win-win for both teams, even a lose-lose for both teams. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a very interesting situation because if you lose James Harden, I think you lose that trade, and you also lose Joel Embiid. I think Joel Embiid is gone if he decides to. I would say he's gone if he decides to stay, or if he decides to leave. Because I just think that Joel Embiid doesn't want to be on a team that doesn't care about its players in terms of, I signed this contract extension. I expected bigger things, and I didn't get it. And they're gonna want, I would say, a lot of in return. So. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it here for the Charge. Thank you once again for tuning in, giving the latest NBA news and rumors, and also basketball opinions. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying your Monday. I know it's a Monday. Everyone gets a little tired, a little groggy on Monday, but keep pushing through, guys. We're only starting the week. We're going to get stronger. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday with Pete on the show and obviously talking about a lot of different things moving forward. But anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Thank you once again for joining, and I'll catch everybody on the next episode of The Charge. Anyway, guys, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next video. Peace.